John Brown was born on May 4th, 1800 in Torrington, Connecticut. John Brown was raised in Ohio where he had became friends with a young slave boy. One day he saw the boy's master strike him with a shovel. From that day forth he hated slavery. Starting on the year 1851, he had started helping slaves escape to Canada as a part of the Underground Railroad. In the Underground Railroad, he hid and protected the slaves, always caring for them in remembrance of his old slave friend. He had 20 children, but only 12 survived. John Brown made plans to attack the U.S. federal arsenal. His plan was that the slaves would rebel and fight against their masters. 20 of John Brown's men marched to the farmhouse. Inside, they planned their attack. However, this plan would not succeed. He was asked to postpone the launch because one of his followers threatened to reveal his plan. Although the blackmailer did not follow through it, there was 1 year delay on his plan. In the evening of October 16, 1859, John Brown marched to the farmhouse a few miles from the U.S. federal arsenal with his army of 20 men. John Brown started by cutting telephone wires so the soldiers couldn't call for backup. Next, they gained control over the watchman, who was all alone. Then they captured Colonel Lewis Washington, the great-nephew of George Washington, and many other prisoners.
When they left the arsenal, the train stopped them, and his men fired to stop it while the conductor ran to tell the passengers. While firing the train, Hayward Shepherd, an incident-freed black slave working for the railroad, was the first victim of the raid. In the morning, John and his men fled to a nearby town where they were shot, so they fled to a hotel. When John's escape route was gone, militiamen came and about half his men died, forcing them to hide in a small brick house. The next morning, they were surrounded by an army of Marines led by Lieutenant Colonel Robert E. Lee, who sent Lieutenant J.E.B. Stewart, waving a white flag, asking for their surrender. The Marines broke in and beat up John, making him go unconscious. Later that evening, John stood in trial in Charleston, Virginia. John told the nation that slavery was wrong and why slavery was wrong. John was found guilty and was hanged in December 2nd, 1859, and was seen as an abolitionist and inspired many others to follow in his footsteps. John Brown may have made a few mistakes, but he is still a hero to the American name.